Hello, I'm John Cook, co-founder of GeekWire. On behalf of GeekWire Studios, we're excited to be here today at the Madrona 30th anniversary party. And I'm joined by Madrona Managing Director Soma Somasegar, who's here today to share some insights on some of the stories of Madrona. Obviously, 30 years is an amazing achievement. Tell us how you got to 30 years at Madrona.
Absolutely. First of all, thank you, John. It's a pleasure having you here and doing this conversation with you kind of thing. Because you've been such an integral part of the technology scene in Seattle. And that was actually the reason and the thesis behind how Madrona got started 30 years ago, right? The 4 co-founders of Madrona 30 years ago decided that, hey, we believe that the technology ecosystem, the innovation ecosystem, the startup ecosystem in Seattle is going to be big, and we want to take a bet on that. 30 years ago, right? This was just about the internet was getting started, right? And these guys took a bet. And 30 years from then, today, I'm so excited they took the bet because Seattle is a sort of, a hotbed of technology and innovation today, right?
It's kind of a big thing there, huh?
It is a huge thing. And more importantly, this one, like I was talking to Satya earlier today, nobody would have imagined, okay, when he took over as the CEO of Microsoft, that hey, we are going to have more than $5 trillion of market cap just between 2 companies here in Seattle.
It's amazing.
And today, between Microsoft and Amazon, we are absolutely there. And the more interesting question is, what is going to happen 10 years from now? We'll all wait and see.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I'm sure you're putting some of those bets down right now at Madrona.
Absolutely.
One of the things that's always struck me about Madrona and its relationship with the community is a strong bond that you have with the founders. Could you talk about how you developed that bond at Madrona and some of the stories that have come out of that?
Absolutely. The first thing is we like to use this sort of catchy phrase, which is we are all about investing from day one for the long run, right? And we just don't say that. We live that day in and day out, right? And founders see that, and they naturally sort of find us to be trusted partners, right? I'll give you an example, right? One of my investments is Snowflake, okay? When we made the investment in Snowflake from Madrona, Bob Muglia was the CEO. I had known Bob for a long time, okay? So there was already a good relationship. And then he saw how we were sort of, leaning in and wanting to add value. It was interesting because at that time, Snowflake was working only or running only on Amazon or AWS. And they were thinking about hey, when do we make this switch to also start running on Azure? And Bob, has got a tremendous amount of history at Microsoft. But he sort of came to me and said, hey, Soma, I need your help. I said, what do you want? Kind of thing. He said, I need these doors open at Microsoft. I said, Bob, what are you talking? It's you, right? And he said, no, I don't know. Why don't you do that for me, kind of thing, right? And so we had to open the right doors inside Microsoft, inside Amazon, for Bob to have the conversation about how can they structure a go-to-market partnership that understands both the competition and the cooperation and navigate through that. That ended up being a huge, momentum generator for Snowflake. And when Bob left and Frank Slootman came in, we had to do once again the same thing because Frank did not know much about Microsoft, right? So we sort of say hey, wherever possible, we want to roll up our sleeves, build a trusted relationship with our founders, and go help in ways that we can uniquely help them.
That getting into the trenches with the entrepreneurs has really stood out to me. Can you talk a little bit more about why that's the philosophy at Madrona and why that works? Because oftentimes in venture capital, sometimes it's just about the check and the dollars. It's not about doing the work. So why is this a driving part of what you do at Madrona?
If you look at early stage startups, which is where most of our focus is investing in early stage companies. In fact, we pride in saying, hey, I would like to invest in you even before you are starting a company, right? So at those days, what people really need is help with product strategy, help hiring the first set of people, engineering people, product people, then marketing and sales people. It's about hey, what should my pricing strategy be? So there is a lot of company building that needs to happen. And no matter who the CEO is, they have experience in something and they don't have experience in everything, right? So they are looking for trusted partners and advisors. And we believe that that's a value that we want to add, we can add that would significantly increase the probability of the company's success. So early stage investors, I think by default, you have to be company builders and you want to partner and do that. If it is a late stage pre-IPO round, sure, by then you got a pretty well-seasoned leadership team that you may not need too much help from outside people. But early stage companies, absolutely, they need that. They want that. and we want to do that.
Yeah. When you look back over your time at Madrona, is there a moment that stands out to you that really exemplifies the firm?
Yeah, I would say this is sort of an interesting thing, because what I'm going to tell you is not about entrepreneurs or not about founders, but you remember 5 years ago, 2020, we all sort of got hit with the pandemic. Okay, about 6 months later, there's all kinds of things happening in the country, in the world, kind of thing, and given the homelessness situation in Seattle and the number of people who are impacted by that, we decided to pull together the technology ecosystem, and literally overnight we created a All in Seattle campaign. I don't know if you remember that or not, right?
Yep.
And to me, that sort of exemplifies who Madrona is. Because we have a day job, we want to be the best venture capital guys, kind of thing, but we are also all about the community. We are about embracing the community. We want to continue supporting the community. And to me, that All in Seattle thing that we did, and I think we ended up raising about $25-30 million or so, like that, right? And everybody at Madrona said, hey, we are going to pitch in and we are going to do our part, whether it is putting up a website, whether it is going and talking to potential donors, whether it is doing something else, like figuring out who that money should go to, right? It was an all-hands exercise for a few days to get to that point. And that sort of, is what I get excited about when I see, hey, this is the team of people that I get to work with day in and day out.
Well, Soma Somasegar, thanks for being here today. Really great to catch up.
Absolutely. Good talking to you, John.
Good
Thank
seeing
you.
you.
Yeah.